Hello to all the parents of the next generation. It's Megan Barella here, your positive parenting and happy home guide. Today, we are talking about parenting teens. Parenting of teens is not for the faint of heart. If you are the parent of a teen, please drop a yes below and know a couple things. If people say they're not struggling with the teen years, they're either lying, they're hiding things, or if that is you and you have loved the teen years as a parent, please share your wisdom with your community because you are in the minority, and we're going to talk about why that is. So I'm going to start off today talking about some of the things to keep in mind context-wise in parenting teens in today's world. I'll sprinkle in a little bit of my experience and what I see when I'm supporting clients, and then I'll send you home with a couple tools that you can put to use right away. I'll be talking a lot about parenting teens this week and next week because I'm a part of a free virtual summit on Reconnect with Your Teen, and I'll drop the link below. You can probably catch the link in some of my other posts, but I encourage all of you to sign up and register. There's going to be 25 of us speakers on parenting teens, and I'll be talking about our parenting as healing journey. Also, when I go into the specific tools, the specific tools I share are actually from a workshop I have. It's a virtual workshop. I think it's under 30 minutes. It's just $29. And it's my top tips for adolescent communication. And so if you are interested in that, I try and have something for everyone, from the free things to the lower price point virtual workshops. And then I'll talk a little bit about happy home coaching and what I see when I'm supporting parents of teens. So again, free resources. You've got the virtual teen summit. You can always go through my free happy home week, which includes a 30-minute session, coaching session for individualized support with the tools. I've got the adolescent communication for $29, and then I'll be sharing more about happy home coaching. And to learn more if that is a good fit for your family, then I do ask people to schedule a complimentary consult, and then the packages begin at $1,500 a month. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in to parenting a teen. The first thing I want to remind you about parenting a teen is parenting a teen begins at any age. So if you happen to be catching this and you have a 3-year-old, you have a 7-year-old, you have a 9-year-old, parenting a teen begins right at the beginning of parenting, because the tools that you put in place, the best practices individualized for your family, are going to determine kind of a make it or break it teen experience for your family. So parenting teen begins at any age. Number 2, I'm always reminding parents, there's too much information out there, too much parenting information. A lot of times parents will, find me and they're like, Megan, I read this, I listened to this, I researched this, and it's like, some of it's high quality, brain-based information. And if it is, a lot of parents have gotten great information and have been able to create positive change just on the free parenting information that's out there. But a lot of times parents are coming to me and they have strong-willed and highly sensitive kids, raising neurodiverse kids in a neurotypical world. And, I hear these things and I'm like, yeah, that's just not going to work for your family, or we need to modify that. So I really want you to not put pressure on yourself with all the information that's out there, because that information might not be brain-based. It might be behaviorist, and we're thankfully shifting away from behaviorist parenting rooted in consequences and rewards. And it just might not be best practices for the way that your family operates best, okay? The other thing, as we're getting started, compassion is the key to your transformation. And if you are a parent of a teen, you really got to increase that compassion for yourself, Pretend like the way that you're supporting yourself as a parent is the way that you would support a dear friend. And talk to your fellow parents, parents you trust who have been through it. Get involved in really high quality Facebook groups. You can join my free Facebook group, Parenting for the Next Generation. I also like Joyful Courage. Casey's also a positive discipline parent educator, okay? And then the last thing about the teen years, like overview wise, is it's kind of like, I was thinking about this when I was getting ready to come on. And I'm like, this is kind of a funny analogy, but it's kind of like going to a festival. Are you like a festival person as well? I'm a festival person, right? So in the summer, I usually teach my art workshops at festivals, and you go to the festival, right? And there's like music, and there's food, and there's vendors, and it's hot, and it's dusty, and there's porta potties, and there's all these different experiences. But the way that each individual interacts with the individual experience is different, right? For some people, they're like soaking up the sunshine. Other people are exhausted by the sunshine, right? You're going to be drawn to different performers. Some people are spending money at the vendor. Some people aren't. Some people want to get this and that. For some people, they might hold it all day and not use the porta potties, right? You get that. It's like parenting a teen is kind of like being at a festival, because our kids are going out there, expanding their wings, right? They are interacting with all these different experiences, but it's gonna be different for every teen. And that's one of the things that I found, and one of my clients reminded me, is like, I've always had like my parenting village. I've always had my community of other parents. But you get to the teen years, and each of your kids' experiences are so different. Some kids are thriving with academics. Some kids are putting too much pressure on themselves with academics. Some people are deciding school isn't for them and they're homeschooling. Some kids are going to get their GED. Some kids are really into sports, or they have this other activity. Other kids aren't. So you've got all this, the way that the friendships and relationships kind of pan out through the teen years, it's different for every child and every family. Okay, so that's the things I'd like you to kind of keep in mind, that parenting a teen begins at any age. We've got too much information out there, and that parenting a teen is kind of like being at a festival, right? And it's because each of our kids' unique journey throughout the teen years is very, very different. And it's hard to prepare that way. And that's why I say, if people say they love the teen years, either listen to them, have them help you, or they're lying, And it's really hard to feel like we're properly equipped for the teen years, because we don't know how our child is going to be impacted by this developmental stage and the life factors until we're there. Plus, this generation of kids went through the pandemic, and that enormously impacted peer relations, mental health, and screen time. And in a lot of ways, I have a 16-year-old. So at the time that he was supposed to be like in middle school, it was virtual school. It was where the kids were nervous when they were back in person. They were masked for a long time, which, rightly so, but that definitely impacted the peer relationships that they had. And I like to remind people that sometimes kids might be a year or two kind of behind, almost socio-emotionally, and to have that understanding and compassion for what this generation of kids went through, plus the increase in screen time and that whole social isolation in the adolescent time, coupled with the increase in screen time and the way that impacts mental health. These kids have been through a lot, and we've been through a lot as parents. So having, again, that compassion, okay? Now, I know on my parenting journey, My most challenging time as a parent was 4 to 5, and some of it was what the factors that I had going on in my life, but that kind of 4 to 5 age, and then 12 to 13. There's also a reason that many of my clients say, like, the 3 to 4 is the most difficult, and then that transition from the tween to teen years. Because we are in a place developmentally where it's focused on ego development. And so ego development gets a really bad rap. And we often think of ego development as, right, what's a word connected to that? Egotistical, of self-centered, of selfish. You know, we've got this like selfie generation. And it's sad that most of us have that connotation with ego development, because really, what is ego development? It's the development of our sense of self, our self-awareness, our self-reflection, our self-identity, and then the way that our sense of self fits into the greater picture of the sense of the world. And why are these developmental times so challenging for parents is because it's times of individuation, where children, it's like we're the walls of their house, and developmentally they're wired to push up against the walls of our house, to test our boundaries, to push off of us, to develop their sense of self, to separate from us. And that's hard, right? That's hard. A lot of us have issues around that. So why is ego development so challenging, for us to support as parents? Well, one, it's just stress levels are high. It requires a lot of emotional presence, emotional maturity, emotional intelligence. But really, what I find that makes the teen years and this ego development so challenging is that most of us didn't have healthy ego development fostered in our lives. Either we were told that we were self-centered, we were egotistical, all you ever think about is yourself, right? Like, don't talk to me that way. That kind of like we were given the message that we were self-centered as kids. Or there's many of us that grew up with parents who struggled with their own mental health, who struggled with addiction, who were neglectful or abusive. And then we were in a parentification role. So rather than being told that we were self-centered, it was like the opposite end of the spectrum, where literally you were responsible for things you shouldn't have been as a child. And you were responsible, hello, for your parents. And so those polar opposites of our own ego development in those key times in life when we were designed to be developing a positive sense of self and a positive identity and our self-awareness and self-reflection and the way that we connect to the bigger picture of life, we were either told we were self-centered and egotistical, or we were responsible for our parents. So we had to be selfless. We had to be a martyr. We couldn't develop our sense of self. So if you identify with that, particularly at any stage in your childhood, but particularly for your teen years, then please just know that we have so much compassion for you. There's very few of us parenting today who had support for a healthy sense of self. And if you did, I am celebrating that. And I always say, if your parents and caregivers are around, reach out to them and thank them, because you are in the minority. And most of the time, this is not the parents who I work with. I work with families who didn't have the optimal, or parents who didn't have the optimal support they needed as parents in order to give our children the childhood experiences that we want to today. And where I come in is I help fill that gap. I help you usually with a fair amount of reparenting in that we focus on what your children's behavior challenges, how that's activating or triggering for you is activating the unresolved pain and suboptimal experiences that you had from your own childhood. So we close that loop by first and foremost meeting your emotional needs and then being able to do that for your children. Oh, and so are you. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Yay. Okay, so that ego development. And I was actually reading about ego incidentally this morning. And this is the image that I'd like for us to, hold with our teens and with ourselves. That image that we are the drops of water in the ocean of life. So what we want for ourselves and our teens is we want that support. So the drop of water that we are is fully actualized and blossomed. And that's a tall order, right? And then that it doesn't stop there. That we're not, we do tend to, those of us who grow up in Western cultures, it's very much focused on the individual. And so we want that connection. Ego development is not just about me, who I am, my blossoming, my fire. It's about how the individual drops of water, the flowers are connected to the ocean of life, to the field of all the flowers, right? And that's a part that is really missing from a lot of the ways that we were raised. And it's this opportunity of this that we can share with our kids. And whether that ocean of life, whether the field of the flowers is is our faith and our spiritual journey, whether it's connection to God, to spirit, to source, to universe, whether it's connection to nature, whether it's connected to what the science affirms as the social brain, that none of us exist in isolation, that our brains are actually a social organ connecting us all. How do you find in your family this connection with, and it could be also community. Your community could do that for you. But how you as a parent, how do you connect to what's greater than all of our individual lives and what connects us all? And we want to make sure that that's really fostered in the teen years. Okay, so one of the things that's funny is about the teen years is we hear a lot about like threenagers, right? This recognition that 3-year-olds can act like teenagers. But very rarely do we hear the other side, that teenagers, can act like 3-year-olds. Because the same is also true. And why is that? Again, it's what we were talking about earlier. It's the 3 and the teenager is connected to those stages of individuation where as children, we're separating ourselves from our parents. And if you have kids in those age, that's their goal. Their goal is to test, to challenge our boundaries and walls so they can develop that healthy sense of self. And so we've got the threenagers, we've got the recognition that 3-year-olds can act like teenagers, but we also want to recognize that teenagers can act like 3-year-olds. And that as parents, we can respond to our 3-year-olds, our teenagers' behavior as an inner 3-year-old or 13-year-old. And what do I mean by that? I read a quote this morning when I was preparing for this. The hardest part of parenting teens is responding as an adult. Listen to that again. The hardest part of parenting teens is responding to them as an adult, from our adult place. Because what happens is when our teenagers are in this individuation, this ego development stage, and so what happens is that our inner 3-year-olds, unhealed, unresolved pain, not enough support. Our inner 13-year-old, unresolved life experiences, suboptimal support from our parents and caregivers, stress, all of that gets activated. And then what'll happen is kids will tell me, Megan, I was fighting with my parent last night. And I laugh. I'm like, don't tell me that. I'm like, don't tell me you're fighting with your parent. How old is your parent? Right? And that's because, when we get into this, we're fighting with our teenagers. We're not functioning as adults then. Our inner 3-year-old and our inner 13-year-old is running the show. And I say that with compassion, not with judgment, right? Because most of us have been there and we just have to have that compassion. Okay, so if you're connecting to this, let me know what's speaking to you. I'm going to take a sip of water and then I'm going to go into some of the tools that I share in adolescent communication. And again, adolescent communication is my short, it's either 20 or 30 minutes. It's the virtual workshop that shares adolescent communication tips and pointers for parents, and it's just $29. And I'll drop the link when I get off the live. Okay, so tip number 1, talk less, smile more. During the pandemic, my son was about 12. He was really into Hamilton, and we used to watch Hamilton, right? And there's that song, talk less, smile more. Now I'm kind of forgetting what that's, but maybe it's talk less, smile more, but the song isn't coming to my head now. I'm gonna have to Google it after this. And I was like, boom, that's perfect for the teen years. And why is that? Brain science shows after age 13, adolescents lean towards novel voices. And what does that mean? They're wired to listen to voices that aren't their parent. And they're also wired to disconnect, shut down, be annoyed, be frustrated by our voices. And why is that? So they do separate out. So they go out and build their community in the world. What does that mean practically speaking as a parent? You got 3 words to get in, right? You've got 30 seconds. And what I find is when parents of teens often find me, they're, the nagging, the lecturing, the yelling, going on and on and on. You're putting yourself in a deficit for the physiological ability your teen has to actually listen to you, okay? So talk less, smile more, talk less, listen more. Think of, before you open that mouth, 1 point, 2 points, 3 points. In the minimal amount of words, you can get your point across. That's the goal. Talk less, smile more. That is brain-based parenting for the teen years. And to also, that Q-tip expression, quit taking it personal. If your teen is toning you out, if your teen is annoyed with you, if they're angry, if you're getting and yelling, it's because you're talking too much, right? Lecturing, nagging, yelling, whatever it is. So just know that. The other tip that I give, again, another Facebook meme that I saw, turns out as I get older, I don't know, I forget what the exact meme said. I'm gonna do an Instagram link to these quotes, but turns out I realized my mom is right. But it's her tone she needed to work on, right? It's probably not what you're saying to your kids. It's the tone that you're delivering it. And the tip that I give for that is, you are still the parent of your teenager. You get to be in your proper leadership role. And the tone that you speak to them should be the way, ideally, the way that you speak to a coworker, or pretend that you're your housemate. Okay, you're still taking the lead. You still might be following up with them, checking in for accountability. You still might be telling your kids what to do and giving reminders and asking them for their input and all the things. But the tone of voice, that's what you can work on. Once you minimize those words, you work on tone of voice. And these are the ways to be most efficient in our communication with our teens. And think about how would I deliver this? Not what you're saying, because that's different. People get caught up on that. I'm not here to be my kid's friend. No, we're not. I mean, we want to be effective as their parent, and we also want to be using tools that develops their empowerment and make sure, I mean, I hope all of us, we do want to be friends with our kids when they're older. We want to have that family. My mom was one of my best friends before she passed away. And so we don't want to use tools that are going to erode that relationship in the future, right? And so talk less, smile more, and work on that tone of voice. Pretend like, how would I deliver this to a coworker, to a housemate? And I'm going to use that tone of voice. And if you want to dive into more tips, adolescent communication, just $29. And if you want to access really a great lineup of 25 speakers, then that's Reconnect with Your Teen. I'll be speaking on parenting is healing. It's all next week. It's all free. I'll drop the link so you can join us. Okay, here's what I want to wrap up. The number one thing I help parents of teens with in Happy Home Coaching. See if you can guess what it is. If you are still here, and maybe if you've worked with me, you can chime in. But there is the most essential, foundational piece of parenting your teen that I help parents with. In fact, parents of all age children, but especially parents of teens. Because one of the obstacles to parenting teens that I find is parents start to give up. They start to check out and be like, hands up, they're going to be out of the house soon, whatever, they're almost 18, whatever, I'm just going to get through this. This is just the way it is. We got to just get through it. It's going to be this developmental stage. And you may not have the capacity in your life due to stress, due to work, due to your own childhood, trauma and experiences you experienced. You may not have the capacity to work on parenting your teen. And I get that. Believe me, I get that. And I'm sending support and compassion. And for the rest of you, this is the time that our kids need us more than any other time. And I would say, if you do feel checked out in your parenting your teen and you can't show up for your kid, show up for yourself. Because when you show up for yourself, you'll be able to show up more for your kids. So I just wanted to share that. If you're feeling like I give up with my teen, focus on your wellness. When you're in your place of wellness, automatically you'll be able to support your teen better. For the rest of us who aren't giving up in the teen years, we're committed to it. We're committed to healthy ego development. We're committed to healthy individuation and having a lifelong positive relationship with our kids. Then what is the number one thing I help parents with and that I work on every single day in my parenting a teen journey? Trust. Trust in yourself as a parent. Trust in your child. Trust in life itself. Trust in yourself as a parent. That's your unique wisdom. Trusting your parenting is healing journey. Trusting in your intuition. Trusting that your needs can be met. And then trusting in your child that they are on the path they're on and that you can support them where they are, that they have wisdom, and really leaning back into trust so they feel safe to share more of that wisdom with you and to share more of their challenges and their struggles. Because behavior, if you have a misbehaving teen, where you're struggling, and misbehaving teens, it's serious stuff that's on the line, right? It could be substance abuse. It could be self-harm. It could be stuff about screen time. Serious life stuff. The stakes are so high for our teens right now, and they need us more than any other developmental stage. And they need us to trust in their wisdom, to trust in their empowerment, to trust in their voice, to trust in their emotions, and to be able to decode the behavior in what the behavior is communicating. and trusting in life itself. I will tell you, I can't even, I say I'm going to tell you, but I can't even put into words how much my own journey, and when I support parents of teens who are struggling with serious stuff and who find me and who want to do the work, that really the gift of parenting a teen is being able to restore our trust in life itself, because we have to be willing to look at all the ways that life hasn't worked out for us, because our teens' behavior is going to prey on, seems like a weird word to use, because it's not like our kids are intentionally doing it, but the very nature of our teens' behavior challenges is going to activate our life wounding. And so to restore that trust in who we are, restore that trust in our kids, which is really calls us to restore our trust in life itself. And that, honestly, I haven't found any work that I'm doing on this planet that is bigger than that. And it's the biggest work that I help parents do. And in the teen years, it's almost like we're on borrowed time to get things figured out, to realign with trust. And it's some big work. Okay? So, I'm tired. This parenting and teen stuff, it's exhausting. Okay, so that compassion is key. Practical tips, I just want to summarize. Talk less, smile more. Speak to your children with the messages of an adult, with the message of their parent, with the message of their leader. Like the tone of voice that you're using is like you would speak to a coworker. Okay? And then remember that the gift, the promise of parenting a teen is us restoring our trust in ourselves, in the next generation, our children, and in life itself. And I'll be sharing a specific process for our Parenting as Healing journey rooted in trust in the Reconnect with Your Teen Summit. 25 of us guest speakers, and it's all free. So I'll drop the link. If you connect with us and you know, yeah, like I'm really struggling with parenting my teen and I don't want it to be like this, and I'm willing to do the work, and I want to restore trust in myself and my child and life, and I want to learn, not only have access to like specific brain-based tools, but I want the tools individualized and customized for my family. And you know that like the education and the coaching are what you need, but it's more than that, that you need on-call support where I'm there around the clock to walk you through voice messaging support. It's like our old walkie-talkie system, right? To walk you through the day-to-day challenges and celebrations that you experience. Then please do schedule a Happy Home Coaching consultation. Okay? So be good to yourself. Compassion is the key to our transformation. And let's uphold the promise of parenting our teens, which is restoring trust. Trust in ourselves, our kids, and life itself. Okay, be good to yourselves, and I'll see you again next week.